We spoke last year. Does that sound okay, by the way? Okay, great. We spoke last year, so I tried to pull some new stuff. So anybody that was here in September or October, you'll see something different. What I'm actually going to spend some time on is up front, what are we doing, and some real data from those programs. And talk about the company, of course, just to give you the context. The second half is actual research that we've done with consumers about mobile offers. We have the longest running database of consumer research on mobile offers. This is our third year of doing it. So we have some pretty interesting data from there. I just pulled, I think, 5 or 6 slides from that, which I thought was relevant to the topic of mobile wallets, which is who are the most likely people to be using these wallets, and what are they looking for, and what are the characteristics of that. So I thought that might be interesting. So this is called the Alert Shopper series, and this is the third one over 3 years, as I mentioned. So just a quick summary of the company. So we provide a location-based offer management solution that delivers offers across multiple channels, but primarily to mobile devices. That can be done without an app, leveraging location from carrier networks, meaning that nothing ever has to be downloaded, nothing has to be opened. There's been a lot of discussion today about the app paradigm. We're certainly involved in that. The challenge with that is that retailers can't get people, first it's expensive to get them to download it, then it's hard to get them to re-engage because very few retailers, Starbucks is the total end of the spectrum, which is repeat usage, low purchase consideration, high loyalty. It's the perfect storm for mobile payments from a retailer. You now have the Targets and Best Buys talking about they want to potentially try to copy that paradigm. But what we've actually done is here in the States with AT&T, across multiple operators with bricks and mortar merchants, is deliver programs with SMS, not sexy, but very effective, that can be delivered to any phone, and that are based on location, which is highly relevant for the user. They understand why they're getting that. You can even tie that to a MagStripe credit card so that you can have closed-loop redemption at the point of sale without any need for NFC. We're not very bullish on NFC, which I'll talk about in a moment. So as far as the company, these are some of our customers here. There are really 3 different flavors of programs. One is for bricks and mortar merchants, broadly speaking. This is at the national level, which is the Sonics, the North Faces, Williams-Sonoma. In that case, you opt into a program from a brand. You receive offers. It's much more of a CRM program for those brands to drive repeat store visits and increased average order value when you come to the store. Second line there, those are mobile operator branded programs. O2 is our largest program in the UK. That's 6 million subscribers they've announced publicly. Also live in Ireland with them. AT&T here in the States last year ran a pilot. And then we're also live in Brazil. We're in the process of launching our first program in Asia. The attractive thing about these programs versus an individual brand program is you can have 20 million subscribers opted into a program, and it functions as a loyalty program for those mobile operators, and merchants get a very effective way to reach new customers. It's really an acquisition tool for the merchant. So we've been around a while, 6 years, built a proprietary technology platform that's all about solving problems of doing this at scale. You can cobble these things together and do something with tens of thousands of people, with 10,000 offers. We can do this with millions of users, millions of offers, millions of locations for that matter. So it becomes a scale problem, and that's why we work with the big players like the issuers and the mobile operators. Shop Alerts we're going to talk about. That is today the leading opt-in location-based mobile marketing solution. In these function, as I mentioned, as loyalty and CRM programs for the opted-in users and for these brands and operators. We have over 6 million active users, as I mentioned, in the largest program, and some of those programs are AT&T and Telefonica. So I want to state my biases right up front so that you know where I'm coming from. I do not hide them. So from our perspective, it's interesting. We got pulled into payments. We don't come from payments. We come from marketing. We come from advertising. And we've been pulled into it because from the marketer's perspective, they see this as kind of the last mile for promotions, which is interesting, which is a very different way than people from the payments world look at it, which is, I've got a payments business. Absolutely. However, how much value can you really add to the payments process? Nobody's saying, my credit card just doesn't work, not effective. It's very effective, it's very economical, that's a whole other question. but that's due to the structure in the industry. It's going to be very difficult to make money on top of that. From our perspective, the adoption and usage on both sides, with consumers as well as with merchants, is going to come from value-added services, and we believe that is in the form of offers for consumers. That's both loyalty offers as well as acquisition offers. And from the perspective of the merchants, it's leads. It's leads or driving repeat visits. It's really interesting also to see this show versus last year's show. Last year's show was payments, 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 and everybody's talking about loyalty, CRM, advertising. I love it. There's a lot, people are getting, I think, converging on what the view of this is going to, how this is going to turn out, and that's going to be at the forefront. Is this will only work if there's value for those merchants and there's value for those consumers. And it's not just because I wave my phone. So carriers are obviously big customers of ours. However, the probability of them being able to control this, if you look at the cloud-based initiatives from PayPal and others, this is different. If they're successful in enforcing the standard of SIM-based authentication for NFC, there's a possibility. Certainly in other countries, there's a possibility. But here in the States, one thing is big enough to prevent that from actually happening, and that's if Apple doesn't adopt NFC, NFC doesn't happen in the States. And that's our bias. So we're not very bullish on NFC's prospects in the States. It's just simply going to take too long. Now, when we talk about, a lot of people talk about ads. This is actually not ads. This is direct marketing. And once again, a lot of people talking about different aspects of this. But how we define that is, offers that are actionable in the real world, and that's what mobile is really well suited to do, which is there are other places to get more reach or more engagement from a marketer's perspective. I can get great reach and engagement on television. I can get great measurable returns with a very efficient market in online. Mobile is really the only place that a merchant, if you look forward, as traditional media that's very locally targetable continues to decline, mobile is the place where they want to be to drive foot traffic at their stores. So what defines this? Opt-in, 100%. This is not advertising where you're forcing it on me and I'm saying, okay, I'll take it because I'm getting something of value. This is, I want value. Give me something. Location-based, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Personalized. That's the other thing. If you, in our world, you're pushing somebody an offer. If you're going to push them an offer, the bar is very, very high for that offer. That offer needs to be very relevant if you're using something like SMS, which is the channel they're used to hearing from their kids, for example. Transactable at the point of sale. So this is broad intentionally. We publish coupon codes from a national retailer who's already generated those and cleared them with the point of sale, and it's in the queue a year in advance. We publish barcodes that can be scanned for those national retailers. We can also generate individual codes in a very simple closed-loop way for small merchants who don't have their own systems. So it's complicated. It can be attached to a magstripe or chip and pin card. It can be attached to a mobile wallet. It does not make any difference. What matters is you're closing that loop for that last mile from the merchant's perspective. In terms of business model, today this is much more of a leads-based business, which is similar to Google, CPC, I pay for a lead. Where that's ultimately going to go and where the payments world comes from in regards to offers like this is CPA, which is I'm going to pay a percentage of the actual purchase that's driven at that point of sale by that offer. From our perspective, we see a near-term opportunity from a revenue perspective for card-linked offers, leveraging the existing infrastructure that's already there, which is magstripe, chip and pin in Europe or outside the US, not NFC. That's just not going to happen in the same time frame. So what's the opportunity? From our perspective, we didn't pull this data together. This is Forrester data. This was published in Business Insider. But basically, 5%, depending on who you believe, 5 to 8% of purchases today are done online. 92 to 95% are done in the real world. So if you look at online, online's a warm-up for what mobile's going to be. And it's going to take a long time. We all know this. But this was the figure that Forrester had pulled together. $1 trillion of offline retail sales per year is influenced by digital marketing today. That's a large market. And there's very little of that that's flowing through mobile. So there's a big opportunity for both traditional media as well as online media to move into mobile. So instead of telling you about what Shop Alerts is, and I know I showed this last year, but it's only a minute long, so bear with me. This will, I think, do a good job of explaining that.
Placecast Shop Alerts is a location-based mobile marketing platform that creates unprecedented brand engagement. Shop Alerts works on any phone. Your customers simply opt in to receive text message alerts from your brand. And signing up is easy, using SMS, social networks, or the web. Your brand can create Shop Alerts geofences anywhere. Shop Alerts will use cell towers to identify customer locations and deliver relevant messages when they are within geofences. Based on their locations, Shop Alerts sends your customers info that they can use right there in the moment. You can send all kinds of information. You can deepen brand engagement with special invitations and insider information, drive traffic to your store, and increase sales. You can
Anyway, you get the idea. So that's a quick summary. We show that to the brands. You're taking a lot of complex information and trying to boil that down into a minute pitch, which is, at the end of the day, what do they care about? They don't care about how it works. They don't care about any of that. What they care about is, what are you going to give me and how are you going to drive leads? At the end of the day, what we're doing is driving foot traffic at stores. So how do we do this? Taking in positioning data, use that very broadly. Some payments companies use transaction data. You have reg data, meaning you have the postal code of a subscriber, if I'm a carrier or a credit card company. We have integrated with the carriers here in the US, as well as some carriers outside the US, to locate a device periodically based on the carrier's network. This means no app to download, no app to open, which is a very lean-forward experience, versus this is an automatic service. It's going to drive traffic. On top of that, we layer on information like neighborhood information, merchant addresses to be able to drive you to that closest location, weather information. We can actually change the creative based on what's going on, which is relevant for somebody like Starbucks. You might serve a hot drink or a cold drink offer. Events calendars. Events are very interesting. We've run big campaigns around huge concerts, for example, in England, where you have 100,000 people there. So events are really interesting because you can drive somebody locally and engage with them in a very local way. Demographic and psychographic information, so census data, Nielsen data, which is how do I better target the audience, and then user preference and profile data. We actually ask people, what do you want to hear about? We're not trying to force something on you. Tell us what you're interested in, or if you have purchase spend data, we can take that profile data and use that to better target. And then, of course, offers. Those can be direct sourced. Those can come from feeds. And what you get is a user and location relevant offer that's then delivered to the device. That can be SMS, MMS, push notification, inside a wallet. Doesn't make any difference. And then the ultimate transaction can happen either with that wallet, but today we firmly believe that that is a card-linked offer leveraging existing infrastructure. So I won't go through that. Just another quick point here, case study. O2, the largest program, started with about 600,000 users, has grown to 6 million users in about 12 months. Over 100 brands run through the program, very successful. Also, what's important is, do consumers like this? So surveying consumers, and you're going to see some similar data from the Harris Poll data, is 74% report liking the location and mobile aspect to it, because it's been very clearly articulated to them. This isn't targeting them on the web and following them around. This is, hey, do you want to get offers that are nearby you? If so, then opt in for location sharing. So it's an actual double opt-in process. 53% report visiting stores, and 22% making purchases across all programs. So that's the average. You have some that are very high, like a quick service restaurant. You have some that are lower, which is the North Face for a $250 sleeping bag. Once again, I think that's been clear. This was a public case study from one of the brands who participated in O2's program. They were able to drive a 2,700% ROI with 1,100 new signups for a gym membership, which, if you look at average average lifetime value of the customer, that's something where you might have somebody for 3 years, all margin, fixed cost business. It's a great example of being able to drive really effective revenue. They were able to drive over $500,000 revenue with a very small campaign. As I mentioned about the last mile, I'll go through, I'm trying to go quickly so we can get to the data. from the perspective of the marketer, they're not looking to solve the payments problem. What they're looking, they have very bread and butter problems. Yes, they want to drive down their cost that they pay to the processors, that they pay on interchange. Absolutely. We're not trying to solve that problem. What we can solve for them is how do I drive that foot traffic and how do I know I drove it, and being able to do that in a closed loop and being able to feed back into my database so that I can make my overall marketing program more effective for those customers. So our programs with a brand are typically tied to their email program, or a program with the credit card company is tied to their CRM program. So the research, so shifting gears a little bit. This is Harris Poll, which you may be familiar with, big panel, consumer panel in the US. We run surveys with them, be able to measure that over time. This was conducted very recently. I literally got the data yesterday and pulled some of it in for today's presentation, or a couple days ago. This is about 2,000 consumers participated. This is supposed to be very much representative of the US population as a whole. So it's not just your early adopters. It's supposed to be very much representative of the US population. We were testing a number of things here in terms of receptivity to marketing and opt-in marketing based on location from bricks and mortar businesses, understanding how they're going to use their devices for retail and commerce, which is what I pulled for today. I think that's going to be most interesting. And then, how does this drive purchase behavior, which is what the people who have the dollars care about. So first, the good news. Marketers love place, time, and mobility. Mobile can provide tremendous reach, especially if you're going the kind of broad SMS path that we've chosen is very good for reach. It's obviously less rich than what you're going to get inside an app, which is better for your kind of engagement with someone in a downloaded app for a loyalty program, for example. Mobile's very unique because it's the only device to be able to take into account the retailer location, and I'll show you what the most popular things people are doing, and marketers see this. It's a very personalized experience, and also being able to socialize that information. It's very easy to share an offer with Twitter, Facebook, even forwarding it if it's a message. And then game mechanics, there are some interesting things that people are playing around with. However, I will say two things we've seen with that. It doesn't stick. It's not going past early adopters. So check-in behavior, those things that we've tested, it tends to increase significantly and then decrease because there isn't enough value in it. That may change over time. Do they want offers? Absolutely. Does it skew younger? Of course. What's interesting here is that, look at 35 to 44, men versus women. There's not a huge difference. And actually, a lot of our programs are more women than men, which makes sense because they're making purchase decisions in the household, because they're shopping. You're looking at apparel-based programs, for example. They are who that brand is trying to reach. How are smartphone owners, how has their behavior changed in the last year since we ran this? And this is pretty significant changes. If you look on the right there, you can see we just highlighted a few of the points that moved the most in the last year. Redeem promotional or discount offers received via email, so engaging in email loyalty programs. That's up 5 points in a year. That's pretty significant. Signed up to receive coupons online. This is the daily deals phenomenon. So that was reported up 8 points. Signing up to receive text alerts from retailers and merchants. That was up 4 points from a year ago. Searching for retail locations. So this is very common, obviously. We're all smartphone users, but we're also not the general demographic, which is interesting. So it's good to get surveys with the broad population to get a much better idea of how the bread and butter users are using this. Just in 1 year, we've seen that increase from at least somewhat important by 5 points over that year, and not at all important, nothing I'm looking for has dropped by 6 points. Which also, if you look at smartphone penetration is at 43% now, which is up about 8 points year over year, so that would make sense. What about making purchases from the phone? So this is interesting, right? And it's a little hard to see there, but that's below the 38% there for the 8 points. But at least somewhat important is up 8 points. That's a big deal. People want this. They are interested in the idea of being able to make payments with my phone, which is a pretty foreign concept if you think about it. We live and breathe it and think about it. But from a consumer's perspective, they're interested in doing this, which is very good news for all of us. Now, going a little bit further down, who is most likely? Who are going to be your early adopters or be the ones that are going to find the most value? And this is the first time I've seen this data, meaning I haven't seen anybody else report this. What we found is people with kids, which this isn't surprising when you think about it, but it's people with kids. They have very little time. They're very crammed. They're also early adopter smartphone adopters because they're managing calendars and picking up the kids, and it fits. But 27% have already made an online purchase from their phone. They've bought a daily deal. They have bought apps, whatever it is, but they report have made that purchase via the phone. And look at that versus no child. 10% difference, children versus no child. The other thing we looked at is, and actually I wasn't going to leave this in, but kids under 6. They're the ones that are the most time-starved and can't get in front of a computer, right? So they're the ones that are absolutely most interested in being able to make those purchases from the phone. So in conclusion, I think some interesting data and some interesting things to think about. This is not your early adopter Android 22-year-old male who's got 5 devices. This is actual people who want to buy things and spend on behalf of their families who have kids. So think about that, because I think it's a lot different than, certainly in Silicon Valley, that's all you ever hear about is the other. I think this is pretty interesting. But in conclusion, the phone is rapidly becoming a conducive and disruptive commerce device. We've seen dramatic increase over the last, this is the 3rd year. That's one of the things, me personally, being in mobile for a while, it's shocking at how fast everything is changing. Versus the web 15 years ago and everything that happened there, things are changing so fast in mobile. Purchasing via the phone is considered extremely important by nearly 1/3 of smartphone users. That's a very significant percentage. Disruption to the purchase process. Retailers are struggling to figure out what to do as the entire retail process is changing. You may have read about Best Buy, for example, talking about forcing everyone who sells in Best Buy stores to use individual SKUs just for Best Buy so they can't do price comparison inside the store. It's the mattress business all over again. I don't know if you've ever bought a mattress, but you cannot find the same mattress anywhere. And Target has talked about the same thing. I mean, it's been reported. So there's a massive disruption going on in retail right now. And obviously, we tested for our own reasons. There's a very strong interest in location-based marketing by the entire mobile population. I was at the ISIS event in Austin 2 weeks ago, and I was very surprised to hear that they are not including location-based marketing in their plans for launch, which is interesting because every piece of research we've done and people outside the US that are doing the same types of ventures are building it around location-based marketing and offers because that's where they see the opportunity. So I think there's still some refining of what's going on there, but surprised to see that. But basically, to summarize that, location-based is considered useful, innovative, more likely to be relevant based on that. But as we said, smartphone owners with young parents in particular are the ones that are both most interested because they're the most time-starved and because of age and being comfortable with the privacy and use of location data. But hopefully that's interesting data for everyone, and that's all I had. Any questions?